Hi guys, welcome back to In the Kitchen with Delightful Donna. Today we are making a really nice dinner and we're gonna pair that with a really good cocktail. So we're gonna do chicken pot pie, which is my own recipe, and it's I'm gonna call this semi-homemade. It's pretty much homemade, but I'm not making that crust, sorry. And this cocktail is gonna be really good, and we have a nice little twist for that too. So stay tuned. All right, before we get started with this recipe, just wanna say thanks you guys for tuning in again. I know that we've kind of had a little bit of a break. We were on vacation. We did bring you some videos from vacation, but we did take a couple of days just to rest and relax. But I wanna show you guys my new apron. I'm so excited. I'm gonna have my husband kind of come over and do like a full body shot. This is so cute. This is from the Disney Ink and Paint collection. And I think it's so cute how it starts off with just the drawings with like no color and then it goes down to full color. I just thought it was really cute. All right, let's get started with our recipe. So like I said, we're making chicken pot pie, semi-homemade. So this is the homemade part. I have here 2 pounds of chicken, I'm sorry. 2 pounds of chicken breasts, they're boneless, skinless, and they're thawed. And then I'm gonna cook the chicken first, and I'm cutting up some onion, and then I'm gonna do onion, garlic, carrots, and celery, and then just some seasonings, you know, my salt, pepper, garlic in that. And we will be cooking the chicken on the stove. So I'm just gonna chop this into 4 pieces. This is just for flavor. Get my garlic going. 2 cloves of garlic. Get those peeled. Those are gonna go in whole. There's my cloves of garlic. Those will go in whole, like I said. We're gonna reserve this other half of the onion because that's gonna go in once we start making the filling for the pot pie. I'm using some baby carrots in this just because it's easier, I'm gonna be honest. A handful or so. Like I said, this is just the flavoring to flavor the chicken itself so it's not bland. So what do I have here? 10 carrots. I'm gonna count these as one. So 10 carrots. And then we'll do a couple ribs of celery. I buy this celery that's already got the ends chopped off of it from Costco. This stuff's great, guys. It's already cleaned for you. We'll just cut it in 4 pieces. So we're just putting it in big chunks like that. We're gonna get this and the chicken in a pot and start to boil it on the stove. Once we bring it up to a boil, we're gonna let it simmer for a little while. So let's get over to the stove. Okay, so we're at the stove. We have our chicken breasts. We're gonna put these in the pot. Mine are 4, and they're pretty large size breasts. Like I said, about 2 pounds. And then I'm gonna season directly on the chicken. This is thyme, dried thyme leaves. I'm gonna use my fork to just adjust those around a little bit so I can get seasoning on all sides. Flip and flip and flip and flip. That one's kind of folded over. Whoops, made a mess, oopsie. You guys know how I am with measuring. We're gonna call this probably about 2 teaspoons in total, but you know how that goes. Whatever your family likes, whatever to your taste. This is just some dried parsley. I put about 2 tablespoons of dried parsley. This gives it a little fresh flavor. And then in goes our 4 pieces of onion that we cut up, our 2 cloves of garlic, our little baby carrots, and some celery. Let me grab my spices. We have our, you know, this is my holy trinity, garlic, salt, and pepper, guys. We always talk about this. So I'm gonna do about 1.5 teaspoons, which is 3 of these little spoons, because remember my little spoon's about 1/2 teaspoon. And don't forget, guys, we do have a we have a giveaway. At the end of the video, we'll give you all the details on how you could win one of these spice caddies. Okay, come with me to the sink. Let's add some water. Alrighty, everybody likes the sound of running water. About there, just to the top of the chicken. You don't want to go too much over that. Back to the stove. All right, let's turn her on. I'm going to turn it on high at first. And once this comes up to a boil, then we'll turn it down to a simmer and let it simmer for about 20-30 minutes till it gets nice and tender and we can shred it apart. Okay, I just turned the chicken off. See, it's kind of steamy in there. I did put a lid on it. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Sorry. And so, woo, steam. So you can see that all those spices and the juice down inside there is nice. So let me grab my fork so I can show you. Sorry for the noise. The chicken is fork tender. I can poke it in, you know, no problem. So we are going to, I think I mentioned before that we were going to shred the chicken. We're actually going to chop the chicken, so that's my mistake. So what I'm going to do though is you can see that there's some nice broth down inside there. Guys, you want that. You want to use that. So I happen to have these really nice pans that have a slot, can you see that? That have these perforations on the side, and I have a little spout on my pan, so I can actually pour that broth off. I don't necessarily care about straining it necessarily, because we're gonna, in the next step, we're gonna cook all the ingredients together and it's all gonna kind of mix up. And we're gonna use some of these same spices in the next mixture. So I'm just gonna drain off the juice into my measuring cup. Ooh, that's heavy. You don't have to use a measuring cup. I use that just because that's what I have on hand. All right. Okay, so that's some really nice broth, guys. This is gonna make a really nice gravy or sauce for our pot pie. That's what's gonna help us make the gravy. So we'll just set that over here for now. All right, now I'm gonna bring my pan over to my cutting board in just a minute. I'm gonna let this cool off for a second. We're gonna come back over to the cutting board. We're gonna chop up the rest of our vegetables. We're gonna saute those, and then we're gonna add the chicken in and kind of create our sauce. Okay, we're gonna prep some veggies that we're gonna saute and then mix the chicken in with it and make the sauce like I said. So I have that half of an onion that we reserved, maybe about a half or to 2/3 of a pound, of carrots, the rest of that bag of baby carrots that I had. And then we have some celery ribs. So we're gonna start with our celery, and you use the vegetables that your family likes. We are gonna add some green beans as well, and those are just green beans that come from a can. But like I said, you add the vegetables that your family likes. If your family doesn't like celery, don't put it in. Your family doesn't like onion, don't put it in. And chop these to whatever size pieces your family likes. My family likes them a little bit chunky, so that's what I'm doing. But you guys all know that my cutting skills are not super precise, so just doing whatever. You do whatever is best for your family. So cooking is all about personal taste and preferences, and whatever your family likes, that's what you do. I can suggest to you how I like it and how I make it, and you can take my recipe and adapt it to the way your family likes. That's the joy of cooking. Okay, so I have that chopped. I just put it in a bowl so I can transfer over to the pan. Now we're gonna cut up this onion, and I'm gonna say we're gonna do about maybe 1/2 inch dice. Let's just call it that because I don't know. And I'm sure this is not the technical way that you learn in culinary school, but I didn't go to culinary school. I work in healthcare. So this is just home cooking, guys. All right. You can see the size of the pieces though. They're not all exact, but I mean, whatever. All right, let's get that in there. And now let's start chopping up our carrots. I use baby carrots. You guys can peel and use whole carrots if you want. You can cut them however you want. I usually kind of do about 5 or 6 at a time. And I'm just gonna cut them in little circles. And again, I don't know, I think that's about 1/2 inch. I'm not real good with measurement. My husband's probably laughing at me right now because, I don't know, looks good to me. And we'll just keep pulling bunches of them out here. And chop. And don't chop your fingers because that's bad. We don't need to end up in the ER today. And continue. Adding into my bowl. Letting them fly all over the counter. Whatever works. Alrighty, a couple more batches here to go, and then we'll make our way back over to the stove. And like I said, we'll saute these in a pan. Oh, look at that cute little guy. Let's just chop him in half. All right. And a couple more. Stay. I didn't pick a big enough bowl. I think we're gonna just make it. Stay. Woo, getting close. All right. All right, last two. And now let's make our way back over to the stove and we'll start. Oh, just kidding. We gotta cut the chicken. See, I'm over here trying to forget steps. Let me grab that chicken. Just because I have to show you guys what I got when I was at Disney. I got my cute little Halloween towels. So we'll use that to put my chicken on. And let me get a fork. And let's choppy chop. All right. This is a rough chop, guys. This is not rocket science. You guys know I'm not super technical. Just gonna cut it in pieces and like in strips, I guess you'd call those. And then we'll just chop them up. And you do whatever size pieces your family likes. You know, I just like to do bite-sized pieces so it's easier to eat when you pull it out of the pot pie. One, done. Let's get the next one. And we are gonna use these veggies that are in here as well that we cooked with, that we seasoned this chicken with. They're gonna be a little bit softer in texture when this is all done, and that's okay. You want different textures when you're eating your food. If it was all the same texture, it wouldn't be good. Kind of be boring, I think. All right, continue to chop. My husband's over here trying to steal those carrots. Do you see that? All right, a couple more to go here. Like I said, this is just a rough chop, guys. This is not anything precise. We got a real nice twist for you guys when we start making this sauce that that's gonna make the pot pie. It's gonna be real good. And I wish we had smell-o-vision. If you guys can smell it, it kind of smells like Thanksgiving in my house right now because of the spices that we used. The thyme mostly. Man, that just smells so good. We're kind of sitting on the couch in between the takes of this, and my husband said, man, it smells so good. He was ready to eat already. All right, looks like we got two more pieces of chicken. And I keep trying to cut my fork. All right, one more. We have all those good veggies in there. You see how hot this chicken is, still steaming. All right, so there's all the chicken. That's my oven preheated, if you heard that ding, ding, ding. Pull these veggies out. See if we can get them chopped up real quick. Like I said, not really precise, guys. We're just chopping. Okay, so let's get our pan on. I'm gonna use a medium-high heat, about 7 or 8. Let our pan warm up because remember, we don't ever put cold food into a cold pan. We wanna let the pan heat up and then we wanna put our oil in and let our oil heat up. I'm using avocado oil because that's a very neutral oil and it doesn't impart a lot of flavor into the food. Okay, my pan is warm. And one little swirl around. Tablespoon maybe? Let's call it that. Let our oil heat up for just a minute. You guys are gonna see some ingredients over here that we're gonna call cheaters. Remember I said this is semi-homemade, not completely homemade. This is called Donna's being lazy today. All right. Get all of our veggies in, everybody in. And we're just gonna saute these veggies for a couple of minutes. See, we have our broth over here. We're just gonna let these work in the pan. And I don't want these to turn into mush, okay? I just wanna get them a little bit tender because what happens when you put all this in the oven, we are gonna bake it for about maybe an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, but you don't want your vegetables to turn to mush inside. But you do want to release a little bit of the liquid and thicken that liquid before you put it in the pie crust. Otherwise, it'll be soggy. So we want the bottom to be dry, basically, and done, and not stay doughy. So that's why we're going to release a little bit of the moisture from these vegetables, sweat them down just a little bit. So I'm just stirring them now to get them evenly coated with that avocado oil. And then we're going to cook these until they're until the onion is almost translucent, but not completely. Like I said, we just want to sweat them down a little bit. Okay, let's just let those go for a minute. Talk about some of the other ingredients we have while that's cooking. I'm going to use the same spices like we talked about. So I have some dried parsley and some dried thyme. This is part of my cheater. Every good pot pie has potatoes in it, but to cook potatoes and chop them up, put them in, yeah, it's kind of lazy. So I like to use cream of potato soup. This does two things. Number one, it gives us those potatoes that we like. And number two, this helps create the sauce or the gravy of the pot pie in kind of a lazy way. But it's going to be very good when we add the broth. We're going to add a little bit of chicken bouillon, a little bit of cornstarch to make sure it thickens up properly. We don't want it too thick though. We're going to leave it a little bit loose because one of my surprise ingredients that is my twist. And you'll see that in just a couple of minutes. All right, so these are sauteing nicely. Said we don't want them too done. Just to start to release some of that moisture. Okay, so you can see these are sauteing nicely, and you see that we talked about they're almost translucent, but not quite. And they've released a little bit of moisture, as you can see in the pan. And that's the reason that we do this on a medium to medium high heat. If we did this on high heat and had a blazing hot pan, these are gonna brown and start caramelizing, and we don't want that. We just wanna release some of the moisture like we talked about. Okay, so now we're gonna start adding in some of our other ingredients and start making the sauce or the gravy. All right, so let's go in with a little bit of thyme. We're going to call this about, okay, let's call that a teaspoon. A little bit of parsley, about the same, a teaspoon or so. Give that a nice stir to combine that. See how nicely it coats the vegetables. The smell of thyme is just so amazing, guys. Again, like I always say, I wish we had smell everything. And I wish somebody would invent that. That's amazing. I could smell this right now. Woo! How good does that smell, honey? Amazing. All right, so that's that. We're going to add a little bit of cornstarch. We add the cornstarch before we add the liquid so that we don't get clumps. We're going to do about a tablespoon or so. And remember that cornstarch takes less to thicken than flour does. And cornstarch gives us more of a translucent type of sauce or gravy. I just personally like it better. It's, you know, it's a preference. If you like flour, use flour. You know, that's what my mom does, and she likes it better that way, and that's okay. Everybody has their preference. Okay, so this is, now you can see that there's no bits of cornstarch just floating around on its own. It seems to be all incorporated, and you see how it soaked up those juices and that little bit of fat that was in the pan, that little bit of avocado oil that we used. So the cornstarch has soaked all that up. So now, that to the side. We're going to add a little bit of this Knorr chicken bouillon, about a tablespoon, and that's just going to enhance that chicken broth that we already have, that we have fresh from cooking that chicken, which we will add now. And you'll see it start to tighten up right away, but I'm going to add a little bit of water as well, because I don't want to add, that was about a cup of broth. I'm going to add about a half a cup of water, and we'll see where we go with that. We may need to add some more. That's okay. We're gonna add the rest of our ingredients and see where we're at. I'm gonna turn the heat down just a bit. I don't want this to boil. Alrighty. So that's looking good. Remember what I said, we wanna leave this a little bit loose. We're not gonna tighten it up too much. We are gonna tighten it a little when we put in this cream soup though. So this is cream of potato. Now I'm making I guess you would call this a double batch because my family loves this and they want it for leftovers because honestly, it's usually better the second day. And so I want to have some for tomorrow. So I'm using basically 2 cans of the potato soup. And I'm using 2 packages of the pie crust because like I said, I want mine's gonna go into a large rectangle baking dish instead of a pie plate because I'm doing a double batch. Okay, so you see the tightness of that. Now you see how it's thickened up nice and you see how that makes such a beautiful little gravy in there. That's a little too tight for what I want. I'm gonna get another half a cup of water and see how it goes. Because of my twist, I need it to be a little bit thin like we talked about. Now, this is also a personal preference because this depends on how you like the consistency of your pot pie. We like ours to be a little bit looser when you cut into the pot pie. We want that gravy to kind of flow a little bit. If you like yours a little drier and you don't like that kind of liquidy texture or gravy texture when you dip into your pot pie, then you want to tighten this up a little bit more. All right. I think we're probably good. Might need a touch more water, but we'll see in just a minute. Okay, this is my twist, guys. No judgment, okay? Until you try it, you're gonna be like, whoa. This is what I consider a 1-pot meal, so it has everything we need. We're on the side, we're gonna have some marinated vegetables, but that's pretty much it. You know, by that I mean pickles and olives. So this has every food group for you. So we are gonna put a little bit of rice. I use minute rice because obviously it cooks faster and you don't have to worry about having crunchy rice at the end because there's nothing worse than biting into a really good dish and you've waited an hour for it to be done and you bite in and you're like, oh man, that rice was crunchy. So you could use pre-cooked regular rice, but I like to throw minute rice in. Minute rice is such a quick time saver and I love it. Okay. So, like we talked about, that's the reason I wanted my gravy a little bit thinner is because that rice is going to absorb that gravy. And we don't want it to be dry when we cut into it, or not as dry. Don't get me wrong. I don't want it to be watery when I cut into it. I want it to have a little bit of a gravy. So I am going to put just about 1/4 cup more water. Just a little bit. I just don't want it to be, I want it to be loose when I think that's gonna be better. All right, that looks good. Yep, that looks good. Okay, now we're gonna add back in our chicken. We're gonna add some green beans. This is just canned green beans. I use 2 small cans because that's what I had on hand, but if you use 1 large can for this double recipe, that's okay too. And honestly, if you use a large can for the single recipe to do one crust, go for it. I mean, whatever you guys like. Normally I put the frozen peas in here. I don't have any today. Forgot when I was at the store. So green beans it is. It doesn't, whatever vegetables, like I said, whatever you guys like. All right, now we are going to add in our chicken and those reserved vegetables that we had from broth. I'm gonna grab the pan and grab the rest of those too. I try to do this gracefully, guys, without making a friggin' mess, but too late. All right. Listen, sometimes I do make a mess, but I clean up my messes too, so it's fine. All right, grab the pan, and we're gonna put the rest of those, the yumminess that we cooked our chicken in. Sorry, bad view for the camera, bad angle. All right, there's that. And we mix. Look at that, guys. guys. Doesn't that look good? Woof. Yum, yum, yum. There is a lot of chicken in this, but the guys in my family love that. All right. All right, next we're gonna get ready to prepare our crust. Okay. And I should have mentioned, guys, I'll just tell you now, that the tip of putting rice in the chicken pot pie, I just want to let you guys know that that actually came from a friend of mine. And when I first heard it, I was like, yeah, you're crazy. But she actually, it's a really good idea. So shout out to Kara George, because that's her idea. And I stole it from her. So hopefully she watches this video and she'll get a kick out of that. She'll think it's funny because she always laughs and says she's not a good cook, but she actually is a really good cook. Alrighty, so I just took the crust out. They've been sitting on the counter for about 30 minutes, just so you know. It's easier to roll them out if you let them sit on the counter for a little bit. And then I've also preheated the oven to 375. So we're just gonna take each one of these crusts out of the wrapper. My counter's clean, I promise. And remember we talked about this is a double. So if you're using a pie pan, you would use a deep dish pie pan, and you would only need one box of this because that's a double crust. So we have a crust on the bottom and a crust on the top. So I'm gonna use some cooking spray. This happens to be avocado oil spray, and I'm just gonna spray the inside of my pan. And that's just so that my crust doesn't stick when we go to take it out. There's nothing worse than pulling up some pot pie and you have no bottom crust. It's like, what the heck happened? Okay, so now we're gonna carefully unroll these. And again, not rocket science, y'all, okay? I promise. Listen, they come already pre-shaped for the pie pan, not for this pan. That's okay. I'm just gonna fit it in here like this, and I'm gonna kind of press the sides up a little bit. Get a little hole, not the end of the world. And pressy, pressy. Bring it up the sides on this side. The side crust is not as important to me. The important part is the bottom crust and making sure that when you put the next piece on that it seals to the bottom. That's more important to me. And I'm not gonna seal the top crust to the bottom crust. I seal the top crust to the top of my pan. You guys probably think I'm weird for that, but that's just the way I always do it, and it works great for me. You do it however you want. And we'll unroll the second one. And in it goes. So like I said, I'm mostly concerned about making sure that these two crusts seal together so that our gravy and filling doesn't seep underneath. And you're gonna have a couple spots where you don't have a lot of crust on the side, like right here. That's okay. I mean, listen, you wanna take this out and roll it out perfectly, go for it. You wanna make your own crust and roll it out perfectly? Go for it. That's not my style. Listen, I'm not a baker. I'm just a home cook. So now I'm just pressing the edge, the seam down to the other crust so that it kind of seals there. And we can pull this up the side just a little bit more. You can manipulate this dough really easily, so do your best. Just like I said, make sure that we're getting that bottom pretty sealed. And you can't see this edge from where the bottom crust is underneath it, but we want to make sure that edge gets sealed too. So you just see my little fingerprints in there. Okay. Just make sure there's no air pockets under there. You don't want bubbles. And just like I said, just press with your fingers. This is rustic, guys. This is not like professional bakery style. Okay. All right. I think that looks pretty good. Alrighty, looks good to me. Now we're gonna take our filling and we're gonna pour it in. And here we go. I'm gonna try to do this nicely so the camera can see it, but so that I can also, let me turn it this way, maybe that will help, so that I can also maneuver it because this pan is heavy and hot. Okay, get all the goodness out of the pan. Sorry if I'm blocking the camera view, guys. I'm not a professional at this. I'm just trying to get it all in the pan. Alrighty. Set that over there. this liquid kind of pushed to the other side a little bit if I can. I don't want it to be dry on one side and real liquidy on the other. But you see how nicely that all fits in there? It's like I've done this a few times before or something. Funny. Okay, so listen, I entertain myself, so you guys don't have to laugh at me. Totally okay with that. Okay, so just mix it around, get it in there as evenly as possible. All right, now we're gonna put our top crust on. Again, we're just gonna come over here and we're gonna unroll like this. Now, this one, I'm gonna press it together on my counter because you can't press it together once it's on there on top of the hot filling. So I'm gonna go like this. Listen, I eyeball this. Sure, that looks about right. And press, press, press. And then you pray it comes off your counter. All right, let's do this. Flip her over, and I'll press this side. We're just trying to join those crusts, that's all. All right. Okay, here we go. I like to just kind of fold it like this. And then I'm gonna put it over here and unroll. Boom, just like that, guys. See how easy and pretty that was? All right, now like I told you before, I'm only going to attach my crust or press my crust into the side of my pan, not onto the crust below it. And that's, again, a personal preference. You know what, there's probably some professional cook out there that's gonna say, that's not right, don't do that. Well, too bad I did it. Because I do things the way I like to do them. All right. And you do want to press the edges down though, because crust likes to shrink when it bakes. So if you don't press it down, it'll shrink, and then you'll come back and open your oven and you'll have like crust right here. And all the edges will be empty. Like, what happened? That's because you didn't press it down good. And turn it. And you see I'm rolling the edges under just slightly. And that gives me this kind of fluted edge, I guess. I don't know. And mostly because the crust is too big. Okay. Almost done. Around here to the corner. And other end. And good. I'll just go back and kind of press again. Just making sure that it's really adhered to the pan. All right, now we're going to take a little knife and we're gonna cut some slits. We want steam to be able to escape from this. So you don't have to be pretty. Listen, if you wanna cut it out with cookie cutters and make it all fancy, go for it. I'm not a fancy cook. So I just do kind of one in each corner and then a big one across the center. That's it, guys. Okay, now we're gonna put her in the oven. Okay, my oven is preheated to 375 degrees. Open her up, grab this, and in she goes. Oh boy, look at that. I might have wanted to put that on a cookie sheet, I'm not gonna lie, because it might boil over, but what the heck. Okay, so the pot pie's in the oven. Now we're gonna make a cocktail with a nice little twist. So these are the ingredients we have here. So let's just get ready. This is a blackberry peach cocktail. We're gonna start by putting a little bit of ice in our shaker. Sorry, we want this really cold. And I'm real bad at measuring. Let's see if I can do it right this time. This is pre-made margarita mix. This has tequila already in it. So, you know, whoops, splash, splash. 1 jigger full. And this is Crown Royal Peach. As you can see, I like it. It's almost gone. This is one of my favorites. And we're gonna do, a half jigger of the whiskey. Put that there. Put the lid on. All right, nice and cold. Focus on the shirt. Whiskey helps everything. All right, put a little ice in our glass. Pop that over the sink. Strain. And here comes the Blackberry. This is, I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is Canada Dry Blackberry Ginger Ale. Listen, they don't sponsor this. I'm not promoting anything, but this is special for the holidays. I happened to get mine at Sam's Club in a case with 2 other flavors, but this stuff, super good. Probably should have gotten a spoon. Little blendy blend. The color's not too pretty, but that's okay. Here comes the twist, everybody. Who's excited? I know I am. Listen, I love cotton candy. It's a big weakness. I love it, love it, love it. I guess I need to learn how to open this. I don't know. So we were at Taste of Halloween recently at Knott's Berry Farm out in California, and they have this boysenberry cotton candy. And it's delicious. Our friend bought one, and he ate the whole bucket in one sitting. It's that good. All right, so now we're just gonna take a big piece of it. Maybe that's too big. We better not do that much. Anthony would probably say, that's not enough. And we're gonna put it like a nice little cloud. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Let's do it again, because that's really neat. Ready? I don't want to make it too sweet. Bye-bye, cotton candy. Cheers. Delicious. Okay, timer's about ready to go off, so we're gonna check our pot pie in the oven and see how it looks. All right, let me get my pot holders. There's mine. Fancy new ones, but I'm a little nervous to use those. Let's get our thermometer out. I'm not looking at my messy drawers either. All right, thermometer on. And let's pull out the shelf. See how it's bubbling on this side a little bit? That's good. You want the internal temperature to be about 165, 170 degrees. Stick it right down the center. $165 on the money. Okay, let's take it out. And on the advice of my husband, I did put it on a tray. Did that off camera, but oh, mercy, is that heavy. And I clearly didn't need it because it didn't spill over, but if it did spill over, I'd have been really upset if I had to clean that oven. So, okay. Wow, that looks great, right? Flaky, golden brown on the top. You can see how my crust pulled away slightly. Oh God, that's so hot. I want to show you guys how flaky the crust is, but it's really hot. See that? Flaky, golden brown. I'm sure it's delicious. It's really, really hot. We're gonna serve this up. I serve it in bowls, you serve it however you like it. We just dig into it. You do it however you like. If you want to cut it into cute little squares, let it cool. And you know, but I like to just dig in. Okay, kind of break the crust on the sides a little bit. Like I said, I'm just gonna scoop in. I normally don't scoop it when it's this hot, but I really want you guys to see the end result here. Oh yeah, look at that. So you see how the rice absorbed that gravy, but it's still a little bit kind of juicy in there. You can see it. See, it kind of runs out a little bit, not too much. And if you want to, You guys could make a little bit of poultry gravy on the side, just chicken broth with a little bit of cornstarch, and thicken it in a saucepan. If you wanted to do that, you could, and then put gravy over the top. Sometimes my husband likes that. I didn't do that today because, let's be honest, I was just feeling kind of lazy. Which is why I made this nice quick meal. All right. Gosh, see it all running out? Goodness gracious, guys. You can see how the crust is done nicely on the sides too. And let me put this right on top so you guys can see the filling. Doesn't that look great? Steamy. Alrighty, let's get ready to eat that. All right, here we have it. You can see it's really steamy. We're gonna let that cool off a second while we talk about some other things. So here we have our cocktail that we made. This is that blackberry peach cocktail that is absolutely delicious, and had to make a fresh one because it was so good. And then, like I told you, this is kind of a one pot meal type of thing. So you have all of your food groups in there already, so you really don't need anything additional. But this is kind of savory and creamy, and we like to have something pickled on the side. Sometimes I do a salad, maybe with an Italian dressing. But today we decided, my husband and I are big fans of like olives and pickles and things like that. So we decided to make a little tray of those items. So we have some pickled beets, we're a huge fan of pickled beets. A couple different types of olives, some bread and butter pickles, some spicy cauliflower, and some dill pickles. So just have that on the side. We're not gonna eat all this, guys. It's way too much for 2 people, but just for presentation. And then I wanna remind you guys that we're having our contest for our YouTube subscribers. When we get to 100 subscribers, and we're getting close. Where are we at now?
60.
We're at 60, so that's good. We gained 10 followers in about a week's time, so that's great. So you guys keep sharing and keep liking our videos. Share with everyone you know. We really appreciate that. Share on your Facebook, share on your Instagram, wherever you can. And once we get to 100 subscribers, we're gonna give away one of these spice caddies, and we'll ship that directly to you from our Amazon shop. So that's a really nice set to have, and we will give one of those away. And then let's take a bite. Make sure, like I said, that you guys like, follow, subscribe. Our Instagram is cooking_with DD, and our YouTube channel is In the Kitchen with Delightful Donna. That crust is really, really flaky. That is so good. I've been waiting for this for quite some time. That is really delicious. So you can really, the thyme comes through, you can really taste it. You can taste those individual vegetables in there. It's not overpowered with spice. The chicken is very tender, but it's still moist. It's not dried out, which is good. That crust is very flaky. I tried to show you earlier, but you can kind of see now, when I pull it off, you can kind of see the pockets in it. I mean, see how it flakes. It's really good. And I know I didn't make the crust homemade, guys, but this just goes to show you that you don't have to do everything 100% from scratch to put healthy, delicious meals on the table for your family. Adjust this with the spices that you like. I'll put the recipe down below for what I used today in the description box. And always, guys, comment on my video. Tell me what you think. If you have suggestions for other videos or recipes you'd like to see, let me know. I'll see what I can do to make them into a video. And we always welcome your questions and comments. So thanks for watching. Bye.